Hello, good morning and welcome to Market Cafe. I'm Ankita Saxena and with me Shrishti Sharma. In the next 1 hour, we'll take you through all that transpired in the global markets, on the geopolitical front and all the cues that you need to watch out for before the start of the trading session today. Well, let's take a look at how the Wall Street fared yesterday. Now, remember, Wall Street gave some good gains. In fact, Dow Jones was trading up more than 0.5%, 0.6% gains coming on Dow Jones, 292 points uptick. S&P 500 also saw gains of 0.2% and Nasdaq Composite also added almost 0.2% gains coming in. But besides that, we also had a lot of data that came in. I remember it's earnings season going on, and we did see the chip stocks that were amongst the major market winners in the session after Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company gave a blowout Q4 results. In fact, that reignited hope for artificial intelligence trade, and Taiwan Semi jumped 4%. With Nvidia also gaining almost 2%. Now, further than that, the US and the Taiwan have also reached a trade agreement where, Taiwanese chip and tech companies will invest at least $250 billion in production capacity in the US. So the tech stocks were really jumping up in trade, and so were the banking names, because you remember the earnings have been coming out. Bank stocks have got a lot of boost after Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley posted solid Q4 results. And in fact, Goldman Sachs share gained almost 4% and Morgan Stanley was up in a way 6% in the trading session. So banking and tech stocks were really buoying the sentiment as far as the US markets are concerned. The US futures right now are little changed after the rally that we saw coming in, but net a positive handover coming in from the US markets.
All right, so that's about the US markets. A good handover is what we are getting to see. But other than that, when it comes to oil, very interesting moves out there, because just yesterday we have seen a bit of a cool off, and rather a significant one. It was a 4% decline on the Brent crude oil prices that we have seen happening, and that was amidst Donald Trump's commentary on tensions easing in Iran, as President Trump says that authorities in Tehran have stopped killing the anti-regime protesters. As of now, Brent crude is trading absolutely flat around that $64 per barrel mark. When it comes to the commodity world, interesting moves in the gold as well as silver prices as well, because as of now, gold is seen to be easing off and now hovering around that 4,600 per ounce mark, and a bit of a cool off in the silver prices as well. Over a 1% decline is what we are getting to see, and trading near to that $91 an ounce mark. Let's see whether or not the correction that we have seen started in crude oil prices continues in the precious metal side or not. So that's interesting to be watched out for. Ankita.
Absolutely, Shrishti. In fact, just on Thursday, we saw gold and silver both hitting record highs. So a bit of a profit booking is what we were penciling in the short term at least. But let's move on. The United States Department of Commerce says that the US and Taiwan have sealed a major trade deal to boost chip making on the American soil. Taiwanese chipmaker will invest at least $250 billion in the US production capacity, while Washington caps reciprocal tariffs at 15% and offers zero tariffs on the key sectors. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company will expand further in Arizona as a part of the pact.
And Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company delivered another record quarter, with the fourth quarter profit surging 35%, beating the estimates as demand for AI chips stayed red hot. Now, advanced chips of 7 nanometers and below now make up to 77% of the wafer revenue, driven by strong orders for the AI servers from clients like Nvidia and AMD. Now, TSMC also guided for a strong growth ahead, signaling sustained momentum in the AI cycle.
And Google DeepMind's CEO says China's AI models are now just months behind us, the US, and Western capabilities, narrowing a gap once thought much wider. However, Hassabis said that while Chinese firms are catching up fast, they have yet to demonstrate true frontier-breaking AI innovation, now, despite strong progress from companies like Alibaba and emerging AI labs.
And several NATO countries, including France, Germany, Sweden and Norway, have deployed small numbers of troops to Greenland for joint Arctic exercise aimed at bolstering region security, as talks in Washington between US, Danish and Greenland officials failed to resolve the deep disarrangements over the island's future. Now, European leaders have reinforced that Greenland's defense remains a shared NATO concern amid the tensions over US ambitions there.
And the White House says European troop deployments to Greenland will not alter Trump's stance on acquiring the territory. Caroline Levitt said that the talks with Danish and Greenlandic officials were productive and has set up a working group on Greenland's future, even as Copenhagen insists fundamental disagreements remain, rejecting any move that undermines sovereignty or self-determination. Let's listen in.
Establish a working group of individuals who will continue to have technical talks on the acquisition of Greenland. Those talks will take place, I'm told, every 2 to 3 weeks. So this is a conversation the administration intends to keep having with the Danes and with the respected delegation from Greenland. But the president has made his priority quite clear. He wants the United States to acquire Greenland. He thinks it's in our best national security to do that. And I don't think troops in Europe impact the president's decision-making process, nor does it impact his goal of the acquisition of Greenland at all.
All right, and Commerce Secretary Rajesh Agrawal has reaffirmed that trade talks with the United States remain on track, with discussions continuing after a U.S. team's visit in December. While no deadline has been set, exports to the U.S. are holding steady. Meanwhile, India's free trade agreement with the European Union is in its final stretch. 20 of the 24 chapters have been closed and sensitive, and negotiators expect to wrap up by later this particular month, potentially paving the way for a major announcement. Sumita Karir is here with more details on the same.
That's right. The Commerce Secretary clarified the discussions have not broken down as far as India-US trade negotiations are concerned. In fact, a trade team came here in December. The deal is very near, but we cannot put a deadline. And a virtual meeting happened between the Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal and USTR officials. The Commerce Secretary also clarified that engagements on pending issues are currently going on, and the deal will happen once both the sides are ready. In fact, we also asked him about if there is any clarification that's been given by the US administration on these additional tariffs which were announced on account of Iran, to which he said that there is clarity which is awaited on these additional tariffs. Now, remember earlier this week, EAM External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar spoke with Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, to discuss trade amongst other matters. And then, of course, we did see on Monday itself, US Ambassador to India Sergio Gore assumed office, and he also confirmed that both the sides are engaged for the conclusion of the deal, and that India has been now invited to join Pax Silica. Now, let's also take a look at some updates that are coming in on account of the India-EU FTA. The Commerce Secretary clarified that sensitive agricultural issues are off the table, which points to yet another instance where India is, of course, maintaining a very strict position as far as sensitivities are concerned. In fact, he also stated that the talks are in the last and the arduous leg of negotiations, and both sides are virtually engaged almost every day on the last few issues that are pending. In fact, he said that if a deal is ready, that there could be some announcement later this month, which is when European Union leaders are traveling to India, which is from 25th of January till the 27th of January. Essentially, it's the President of the European Council, Mr. Antonio Costa, and President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. Both of them are traveling for the celebrations of the 77th Republic Day. They will also be co-chairing the 16th India-EU Summit on 27th January. So if all goes well, there could be a signing of this particular deal. This is a very, very important deal, given the fact that the European Union is looking at expanding its partnerships and considers India an important partner as far as a trade of the geography is concerned.
All right, we'll get you more updates on the other side. We'll slip into a short break. Don't go anywhere. You need to watch out for. And before the start of D Street today, we see how the Asian markets are shaping up. But as of now, GIFT Nifty is trading with gains of 62 odd points, 0.2% gains coming in. We expect a positive start because the handover has been positive from Wall Street as well. And in fact, Asian markets are trading mixed right now. Even though it's basically just Nikkei that is trading down, more than 0.5% right now. It is still extending its losses. In fact, all the chip stocks are doing very well in all the Asian markets. And I remember on the back of that US-Taiwan chip deal, all the chip-making companies are doing pretty well. In fact, SoftBank Group, which has invested in various chip-related stocks, including chip designer ARM, is up in a way 1% in the trading session. In fact, right now, Kospi is also trading with gains of almost 1%, and the chip-heavy Samsung Electronics on Kospi has gained almost 1% in trade. Besides that, we also have ASX S&P 200 that is trading up 0.1%, a bit of a flat moves coming in there. Shanghai is trading up 0.3%, and Hang Seng is trading up more than 0.5%, 0.6% gains coming in on Hang Seng Index. So besides Nikkei, all the other Asian markets are trading in the green, and Nifty is also expecting a positive start in the back of GIFT Nifty.
All right, so that's about the Asian check. Good handover is what we are getting to see. But with this, let's also tell you which are some of the stocks that you should be watching out for in today's trading session. And a whole host of pharma companies will be in focus. Let's start with Cipla, then a major announcement done by the company, because just a few days back, we have seen those US FDA observations coming in for one of their key suppliers for their key drug, that is lanreotide, wherein Cipla has now announced that they have to temporarily pause the kind of supplies for lanreotide. That is one of the key drugs for Cipla coming in right now, and that definitely follows the US FDA audit of their partner facility. Sun Pharma will be in focus as well, as the company has announced the availability of one of their skin cancer drugs. So positive news flow coming in for Sun Pharma. Biocon, let's watch out for that, as the QIP data does suggest that the company has raised 4,150 crores at an issue price of 368.35 rupees a piece, wherein investors like SBI Mutual Funds, ICICI Pru Mutual Fund and HDFC Life have been some of the key investors in this particular QIP. Zydus Life will be in focus as well on the back of a positive development, as the company has completed its strategic acquisition of Ignesis Inc.'s biologics manufacturing facility, and has also received US FDA approval for one of the drugs related to low platelets. So positive news flow coming in for Zydus Life as well. Transrail will be in focus as well, as the company has bagged new deals worth 527 crores in India as well as overseas. Kernex Microsystem will be the other stock to watch out for on the back of an order win worth of 2,465 crores. That's a Kavach deal from Indian Railways. So yes, of course, Kernex is one of the key players when it comes to the Kavach platform, and a very big deal rather is coming in for this particular company. Pace Digitech will be in focus as well on the back of an order win announcement worth 375 crores. This is for a solar EPC deal from Bondada Engineering. And Indian Hotels, that will be in focus as well on the back of the news flow, as the company has acquired 51% stake in Bridge Hotels for 225 crores. And lastly, NTPC Green, that will be the other stock to watch out for on the back of commercial operations for additional 37.5 megawatt of solar capacity at their Bhuj plant, and they have also approved a formation of 50-50 joint venture with GAIL. So these are some of the stocks to watch out for. But Ankita, do believe a whole host of counters on the back of the earnings will be in focus?
Absolutely, Shrishti. We are in the thick of the earnings season now, and a lot of earnings coming in. And tech major Infosys also reported its quarter 3 numbers. And now PAT saw a slight bit of a miss coming in because of that one-time labor code charge. So PAT was a miss there. In fact, revenue was down 10% on a sequential basis. PAT was also down 61.3% on a quarter-on-quarter basis at 269 odd crores. So, I beg your pardon. PAT was down. On the back of the labor code, and that's the Infosys basically missed the street estimates on the back of the one-time labor code charge that came in. But let's move on to the next one. Geo Financials quarter 3 results. We do have the PAT that saw a miss, that was down 61% on a sequential basis. The revenue saw a downtick of 10%, and the expenses were up 29.6% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. So Geo Financials also saw a downtick coming in all fronts. So let's see how the stock reacts in today's trading session. L&T Tech also came out with its quarter 3 numbers, where we did see a downtick of 8% on the PAT, and consolidated revenue also saw a downtick of 1.8% on a sequential basis. HDFC Life also came out with its quarter 3 numbers, where we did see the gross premium income that was up 8.9% on a year-on-year basis. The VNB was also up 2.7%, and the APE also saw an uptick of 11.3% on a year-on-year basis. Besides that, we have ICICI ICICI Prudential AMC reporting its number, where the AUM saw an uptick of 23% on a year-on-year basis, and the profits were also up 45% on a year-on-year basis. So good set coming in for ICICI Prudential AMC. South Indian Bank also came out with its results, where we did see the NIMs that were up in a way 1.3%, and PAT also saw an uptick of 9.5%, and they also saw an improvement in the asset quality. So South Indian Bank also reported a good set of Q3 results here. Angel One was another counter that came out with its Q3 numbers, where we did see PAT declining 4.5% on a year-on-year basis, and the total client base that saw an uptick of 21%. So that's a result for Angel One, and we did see Federal Bank coming out with its Q3 numbers, where the PAT saw an uptick of 4.6% on a year-on-year basis, and NII also saw an uptick of 25.6%. And we did see the asset quality deteriorate for Federal Bank. So that was the result for Federal Bank, and Prestige Estate is the final counter that came out with its Q3 numbers, where the pre-sales saw an uptick of 39% and the collections were up 40% on a year-on-year basis. So good set coming in for Prestige Estates. Those were the business updates coming in. So good set coming in for Prestige Estates, and all of these counters are going to be in focus today in the trading session on the back of these results and business updates.
All right, so that's about the stocks that you should be watching out for. But let's move on to another story. And India's trade gap widened sharply in December, with the merchandise deficit climbing to $25.1 billion, up from $20.6 billion a year ago. And imports surged past $63.5 billion, while exports inched up to $38.5 billion. And on the brighter side, it was the services exports that held steady and strong rather at $35.5 billion, offering some cushion to the overall trade picture.
And in a landmark ruling, Supreme Court has set aside the Delhi High Court judgment exempting Tiger Global from capital gains tax in 2018 Flipkart deal. The Supreme Court ruling has stated that the US-based firm Tiger Global and its related entities are liable to pay tax on $1.6 billion exit from Flipkart, and they aren't exempt from the taxes under India-Mauritius DTAA. Let's go across to Pranav Saitha from Ernst & Young, what he had to say about the judgment and how will he read with immense interest by shareholders and globally and not just in India. What does this ruling really mean for investors and taxpayers? We caught up with Siddharth Pai, founding partner at 314 Capital. Let's listen into what he had to say as well.
A vast number of investors no longer look at the tax advantage or the tax arbitrage as one of the factors to consider investing into India. In fact, from 2019 also, most of the larger fund houses have either pivoted away from Mauritius to go directly to go to Singapore, to end up actually coming to India directly, to go through GIFT IFSC, which also came out in 2019 over there for that matter, or they're looking at other pooling jurisdictions like Dubai, etc., to end up actually investing into the country. Now, the biggest risk for the industry as of now is the uncertainty of whether the tax department is going to go back and start reopening previous assessments and start actually asking questions about the actual substance of the and the presence of the manager in Mauritius when the decision to make the investment or to divest the securities ends up actually happening. In fact, it's fair to say that a large number of investors who have structures in Mauritius, large number of them do end up actually facing immense amount of tax litigation. So the joke among the industry is that investing to Mauritius is a lot like the song Hotel California. It's very easy to check in, but it's impossible to end up checking out and leaving. So that is something that's actually been part and parcel of it. Now, this agreement is looking into the future is not as much of an impact after all, because the industry has already seen the cracks in the Mauritius structure and they've already ended up pivoting. But the uncertainty of reopening older cases or actually looking at previous exits and all is something that's casting a massive ball across the entire industry itself.
All right, so that's about the expert take on the same, but let's understand this news flow in detail. My colleague Sumita joins in with more details.
Absolutely. So this ruling essentially is a big setback to Tiger Global. The Supreme Court in a landmark case today ruled that Tiger Global's $1.6 billion stake sale to Flipkart to Walmart in 2018 is subject to taxes. In fact, Indian tax authorities challenged an earlier case on the matter as well, which was in favor of Tiger Global, but this one has completely changed gears. In fact, this case is centered on whether taxes should apply to Tiger Global's sale of its Flipkart stake to Walmart in 2018. And this sale That's valued at about $1.6 billion. It formed part of Walmart's $16 billion of acquisition of the Indian e-commerce firm Datia. The Supreme Court then said that the $1.6 billion stake sale in Flipkart at that time of the Walmart Flipkart acquisition deal is subject to tax. Now, this hands over a win to New Delhi and, of course, the tax authorities here in this landmark ruling. This is related to the use of international tax treaties by companies. So this is going to be having a major impact on investor community, overall investor community as well. And this was keenly watched by foreign investors and the legal disputes that are related to how the US investment firm essentially used the India-Mauritius tax treaty to claim tax exemptions and New Delhi's fierce objections to it.
All right, with that, it's time for us to slip into a short break. Don't go anywhere.
Now, and just yesterday, it was indeed a big day for Mumbai because it was charged election campaign for Mumbai civic polls for Mahayuti, comprising of BMC and Shinde faction of Shiv Sena, fighting against Thackeray brothers, and the much anticipated and hotly contested civic elections in Mumbai drew to a close with the voting process ending, wherein 28 other civic corporations in Maharashtra also went to polls yesterday. But the voter turnout wasn't that enthusing because the voter turnout, as we understand, was actually below 50%. But yes, of course, it was the elections of the civic body that actually draws the major revenue, and that was indeed interesting as well because two big factions were actually involved. So let's take that discussion forward, and for that we are being joined by Mr. Jayant Menkar, who is the senior political analyst, joining us on the show. Hi, very good morning, Mr. Menkar. Today seems to be a big day as we all are waiting by for the outcome of the elections of BMC. But interesting to see that there were two major factions. What is the sense that you are getting after the elections are done? Because overall, the voter turnout was actually wasn't that enthusing, because even after the holiday was actually announced, it was not just the holiday that overall the government has announced, but along with that, what we have seen is that even the stock markets were also closed. But Mr. Menkar, what is your thoughts on who's going to win today, and what's your overall take on the elections? Because the overall voter turnout was actually not that great.
Yeah, who is going to win is something, whatever that I say will may prove to be wrong or may prove to be right within 1 or 2 hours. But I can tell you one thing, one particular issue, that is the easy removal of the ink was very much discussed yesterday in Mumbai. And again, it was answered by Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, which actually should have been addressed by Election Commission or other officials. But first, he said nothing. Then it was stated that even others also used. And the worst part, one of the ministers, Ashish Shelar, said those who are removing this ink should be arrested. But there is no direct answer that whether the ink is possible to be removed or not. And that is the main thing. So I want to say that in 2019 Lok Sabha elections, there was this Pulwama incident, which sparked whatever the emotions and all that. It is always stated that Pulwama, in a way, helped BJP to come to power. Then, in 2024 assembly elections, in Madhya Pradesh, in Bihar, and in Maharashtra, the much publicized Ladki Bahin Ladli Behna scheme, 450 crores were disbursed in Maharashtra to those who were not entitled. And now in BMC, did this trick of removal of ink has worked? I think Election Commission needs to address this issue immediately, because mayor saying that those who remove the ink will be arrested. No. If I wash my hands, the ink can be removed. So I feel that, okay, 50 over 55% is a good voting considering Mumbai's usual percentage, which was less than 50%. So obviously, the workers of Sangha Parivar as well as the Thackeray brothers both worked in Mumbai, which reached to over 55%. That's good, comparatively good percentage of Mumbai election. We know in 2017 when there was 55 percentage votes, the Shiva Sena got 84 and BJP got 82 seats. So expected a neck to neck race, but against the backdrop of this ink removal controversy and other things, anything is expected, maybe somewhere on the lines of Vidhan Sabha also, that the Thackeray brothers may be wiped out also, because all are expecting and all the poll predictions are saying that BJP and Shinde Sena are going to sweep BMC polls.
Right, so that's what the exit polls are also suggesting, Mr. Manikar. But you know, these elections are very, very important because it's happening after a gap of more than 4 years. In fact, the general body of the BMC is bringing an end to a prolonged administrator role and setting the stage for high stakes political battle, finally in Mumbai, because up until now we did not really have an elected body there. The election is not just being watched by more than it's being watched as more than a civic contest right now. With the budget exceeding 70,000 crores, the BMC is now the richest municipal body, and the control over it carries very enormous political and administrative influence. But there is also the other caveat, the fact that how Mumbaikars have been, reeling under, whether it's bad air, whether it is construction that's going on, because there are a lot of expectations now when the government takes charge. So what is it that these governments are promising, and which has a higher stake to claim here?
Unfortunately, none of the two main contestants, the BJP or the Thackeray brothers, have anything to say about the real civic issues, but both are saying only. One has already stated, Mr. Devendra Fadnavis started this with the words that there will be only Hindu mayor, and then he came down and said even Marathi. Whereas the Thackeray brothers continued with Marathi mayor. All the civic issues, all the pollution, everyday influx of 1,000 people from all corners of the country to Mumbai in search of a bread butter. This is the ratio that is available. That is nearly 4 lakh people every year are pouring in Mumbai. They may stay in extended suburbs, they may stay in MMR area, but for bread and butter, they are depending on Mumbai. So obviously the water, the electricity in the day they use in Mumbai. So all these issues, are they addressed? Or did we concentrate only on Hindutva, Hindu mayor, and Marathi and all that, and in a way polarizing the atmosphere in the name of Gujarati, North Indians, and Marathi, Hindu and Muslim? Yes, we did. Which party or which group to be blamed? So I say here are both are inclusive. It started by Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, echoed by even Thackeray brothers that there will be Marathi. But when we are having Zohran Mamdani as the mayor of New York, or even Rishi Sunak, former Prime Minister of UK, we are still, in that old controversy of Hindu, Muslim, and even Marathi. None of them has really addressed the core issue of Mumbai, and particularly the influx. And when I'm saying influx, it is not something like the way the Raj Thackeray says that beating up North Indians, or the way his uncle did beating up South Indians. No, you need to address where to locate, how to provide water, because for the jobs,
Yeah,
everybody is bound to come to Mumbai and no one can stop them. So this issue
absolutely.
needs to be addressed. And unfortunately, no one, not a single, you can say the front of the warring front, they have addressed this core issue.
Absolutely, Mr. Mainkar. So many issues to address, and definitely we understand your concern. But thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking with us. Just a few hours to left, and we will have the verdict. But your takes were indeed interesting. Thank you so much for joining in. But yes, the stock markets were actually shut yesterday, and in a reply to what Nikhil Kamath said on market closures during the civic elections, NSE MD and CEO Ashish Kumar Chauhan talked to ET Now and emphasized that democratic processes must be respected above all. And closing markets on a polling day reflects that respect for democracy. He also pointed out that the upcoming BMC elections taking place after a 9-year gap. Let's listen into a slice of that conversation.
BMC elections are happening a period of gap of 9 years, and in these 9 years, Mumbai has changed a lot. We have seen Coastal Road, Atal Setu, Aqua Line. So, going ahead, as a Mumbaikar, what are your expectations after this BMC elections?
In a way, somewhere Mumbai was neglected in terms of the facilities that should be there, and somewhere on the line, I think there has been a lot that has happened over the last 9 years, and we are delighted that some of the facilities have come online, like Aqua Line, but there are many more infrastructure projects which are going on, and naturally there has been huge amount of development, especially in this area. I was staying earlier at Malabar Hill, now I am at Lower Parel, and this area, Lower Parel, has developed very well. So overall, I think we have, of course, lot of expectations as citizens, and hopefully whoever gets elected will fulfill. We have some more new infrastructure plans, like the sea link being extended to Warsaw and even beyond to Virar.
Tunnel also between Borivali and Thane.
And
a lot of infrastructure.
Right. So, and of course, Jawahar Airport and the port. So those are things we look forward eagerly, and naturally Mumbai is increasing also in terms of population. A lot of people are coming from across country. So in a way we need to improve our infrastructure, and that's happening.
Okay. Sir, today state government has allowed a holiday for the election, and exchanges are also closed. Zerodha's founder Nitin Kamath has commented that for a local elections our markets are closed and it shows our forward planning. So what do you have to say on this? What do you have to comment being a MD and CEO of NSC?
In a way we have to basically respect the democratic processes, and whatever the decisions of the authorities, we must follow.
Okay. Ma'am, as a doctor and as a female voter, you have any expectations or issues will be voting for?
I think whatever the government are doing till now, they are doing great, and I hope they will continue doing the same.
That's Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO of NSC, commenting on the voting of BMC elections that happened yesterday, on the back of which the markets were shut. But a few hours from now, we'll know the results. But with that, it's time for us to slip into a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll get you more updates on all the updates before the start of D Street. And Big Boy Reliance is all set to report its Q3 earnings, and it looks like a steady set coming this time round. The retail segment may see revenue jump of 10%, while higher refining margins may aid the O2C segment. My colleague Ashesha is now joining us with what to expect from Reliance.
Well, yes, Big Boy Reliance Industries is all set to report its numbers, and we are expecting sequential as well as year-on-year growth this time around. Consolidated revenue this time is expected to come in at about 2,58,330 odd crores, which will be an increase of about 1% on a sequential basis and 8% on a year-on-year basis. EBITDA margins, meanwhile, are also expected to expand. We are expecting EBITDA margins for Reliance Industries to come in at 18.5% versus 18% that the company had reported in the second quarter, which is an increase of about 50 basis points on a sequential basis. Let's talk about the segment-wise performance then. First up, Reliance Retail, where we are expecting 10% revenue growth and about 5% growth on the EBITDA level. Now remember, higher footfalls on account of GST-led rate cut are likely to aid numbers for Reliance Retail this time around. Margins are expected to contract for Reliance Retail on account of RCPL demerger and rising quick commerce resilience that we have seen in the quarter gone by. As far as oils to chemical and O2C, that is an oil and gas business is concerned, O2C EBITDA is expected to see a jump of about 10% on a sequential basis. Remember, we are expecting good set of numbers from the oil to chemical business on account of higher refining margins. As far as gross refining margins are concerned, they are expected to come in at about $12 per barrel versus $8 to $10 per barrel GRMs that the company has been reporting for the last 6 quarters. Oil and gas EBITDA, meanwhile, could see a marginal decline on a sequential basis. Telecom business, that one is also expected to report strong set. We are expecting 2.5 to 3% revenue growth and about a 2.8 to 3% EBITDA growth this time around. Average revenue per user could come in at about 213 to 214 rupees per user per month, which will be an increase of a marginal 1% on a sequential basis. But any kind of management commentary around new businesses, around telecom price hike, especially before Reliance Jio listing, will be very crucial this time around. But yes, Reliance Jio is expected to report strong set, and on a consolidated level too, Reliance is expected to report strong set of numbers, both growth on a sequential as well as on a year-on-year basis.
All right, so that is what we're expecting from Big Boy Reliance. But let's go across to my colleague Ashesha yet again to find out what are we expecting from Reliance Jio this time round. Let's take a look.
Well, yes, Reliance Jio 2 is expected to report a growth both on a sequential and on a year-on-year basis. And let's start with the revenue figure, where for Reliance Jio, we are expecting revenue at about 32,770 odd crores, which will be a growth of nearly 3% sequentially. EBITDA margins are expected to largely remain stable near that 54.3% mark, and EBITDA 2 is expected to see a jump of about 3%. But ARPU, average revenue per user, will be an important metric to watch out for. Last quarter, it stood at 211 rupees per month per user. That is expected to rise to 212, 213, which will be an increase of about 1% on a sequential basis. Any kind of management commentary around around tariff hike will be very crucial this time around ahead of Reliance Jio's listing. But yes, telecom business is yet again expected to report strong set of numbers.
All right, thank you so much, Ashesha, for getting us all those details. So let's watch out for Big Boy Reliance. But yes, of course, interesting handover coming in from the global markets as well, because once again, the US markets are on the run-up, and along with that is the fresh trade deal that has been announced between Taiwan as well as US. So let's understand more on that how is the sentiment for the global market shaping up right now. We have William Lee, Chief Economist and Executive Director of Milken Institute, joining us from New York. Hi, very good morning, Lee, and thank you so much for your time. And first up, that's the fresh trade deal that has been announced. So why don't you help us understand more on that? Because of the investments that has been set coming in from to the US, as well as there has been a cut with respect to the tariffs from 20% earlier to 15% now. What does it really mean when it comes to this particular trade deal? And along with that, the chip counters, they are buzzing. So once again, a renewed interest over there. What are your thoughts on the same?
Well, I think the shape of President Trump's tariff agenda, and in fact, it's not a tariff agenda, it's an investment agenda. And we see it in action in this Taiwan deal. It's a long-awaited deal where the United States is essentially showing the world that if you invest in the United States, the way Taiwan Semiconductor has agreed to do, and if you invest in, as they have done, $250 billion into developing a new plant and expanding their existing plants, you will get exemptions from the higher tariff rates. And I think that's the source of much of the revenues that the U.S. has gotten over the last year in terms of trying to help its fiscal deficit. But as far as investors are concerned, I think it's made very clear that President Trump is very serious that if you want to avoid tariffs, if you want to sell in the U.S. market, come invest in the United States, because the United States is where the money and capital is most productive throughout the world. And Taiwan Semiconductor is a prime example of that. A successful company becoming even more successful.
Mr. Lee, also we do see the tensions with Iran that were seen escalated, now de-escalating, especially with that comments coming in from Trump that, the insiders are informing that the killings have stopped and therefore a softer stance by Donald Trump. And therefore we did see that downtick coming in the oil prices as well. We did see a fall of almost 4% on the oil as well. How do you see this situation to pan out? Because there has been a lot of fluctuation as far as global oil market is concerned.
Well, Iran actually is a very small player in the world market right now because let's remember, Iranian oil is sanctioned and you're not supposed to buy Iranian oil. And the people who are buying it, primarily China, are doing it in the black market. And I think with the easing of tensions, I think what we would expect further on is to see the supply of oil increase from Iran if the government of Iran becomes more legitimized and not the kind of government that is so against the West as it is now to be subject to sanctions. Once the sanctions are lifted from Iran, we would expect a massive increase in investments into Iran and a supply of oil coming out of Iran. So in the medium term, I would expect tensions easing to mean oil prices stabilizing or even going down. And that's the same event that we expect in Venezuela, where, again, massive investments are going to be going into restoring the productive capacity of a country so that the people of that country can benefit from its resource. So I think one of the things that we should see in the world right now is that the investment agenda put in by President Trump is trying to draw capital into the United States to try to invest there. And the foreign policy of the United States is to try to ease tensions in a way that promotes not only political stability, but economic stability as well.
Also help us understand where the money will find its way from now, because amidst all these geopolitical tensions and the statements there, it was not just a bit of a jump in the crude oil prices, well, of course, backed by the news flow, but even the safe haven demand was something that we have seen with respect to the gold as well as silver prices surging. And on the other hand, the US markets were also holding up well. But now that the tensions are easing, the Trump's policy are on its way, where do you think that the investors will find interest from now on?
I think the source of growth right now, as the United States has been demonstrating in the last year, is from productivity. And the United States, we are expecting almost 5.5% growth going forward. And even though our labor market is weak, we're not really creating the number of jobs that we really need to create. But because of the investments we put in place the last 3 years, we're expecting that the productivity growth will continue to carry the day. And for investors, that's great news. That means that every worker that's working is more productive. You can actually pay them more, and your products can be sold for less, and your profit margins can be increased. This is the best of all worlds. Now there are some downsides to this, and I have to say, one of the social tensions in the United States is that the employment growth is not growing fast enough. Income growth isn't growing fast enough to allow workers who don't own capital, who don't own shares in the NVIDIAs in the high-tech world, those people are really living hand to mouth. This K-shaped economy is a social problem for the United States because I think what we have to do is focus the investments in a way that makes workers more productive so that workers can be paid more. What my fear is that a lot of the technological progress and a lot of productivity changes will be making machines more productive, and companies will be investing more machines. And that would be a very bad thing for the United States because there, the return of productivity will go to the owners of capital, which is the top 10% of the wealth holders in the United States. And that would cause even more political stress, which would show up in the midterm elections and maybe even the presidential elections going forward. And I think President Trump is well aware of that and trying to, again, provide tax incentives and deregulatory incentives so that investments go toward making people more productive, not just machines more productive.
All right, Mr. Lee, on that note, thank you so much for joining us and weighing in on the global situation. We'll let you go on that note, and thank you so much for joining us today. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Market Cafe. Shrishti and I will take your leave. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't go anywhere. The market is coming up next.